Okay, thank you. I'm in a new room. This is the first time I've Zoomed from this new room in my new home. And so I'm a little bit over backlit, but you can see these signs. We're going to start with an introductory statement from each one. And I'll start alphabetically, which means Mr. Basinger goes first, and then Mr. Bush. I'll give you 3 minutes to say whatever you want. You can recite the Constitution, or you can talk about yourself, anything you want. But you have 3 minutes. And when there's 30 seconds left, I will show this. When there's 10 seconds left, I will show this. And when you've taken up all your time, I will show this. And after you've both given your introductory statements, then we will take questions from anyone here. I request that your questions be no longer than 30 seconds because I get tired of listening to us. I want to listen to our speakers, to the candidates. So restrict your questions to 30 seconds if possible. Second, you have 2 minutes each to respond, and I will alternate who goes first. And if I lose track of who goes first, I'm sure you'll remind me. But anyway, you have 2 minutes to respond, each one of you. Your questions should be directed to both people. Oftentimes I hear people say, well, this is just a so-and-so, and what do you think about this? No, I want to hear what both people think. And then when we get close to the end, you will have cut off the questions. And people sometimes ask questions in the chat, so I have the chat open in case somebody has a question in the chat room. And but when it's all over, when we're getting close to the end of the hour, I will stop. And then again, you will have 3 minutes to tie up loose ends. Again, recite the Declaration of Independence or whatever you want. And again, I'll have the 30, 10, and stop signs. And that one will start with Mr. Bush because he did not start at the very beginning. And that's the way it'll go. And I have my handy dandy timer here. And so we can start with Mr. Basinger. Would you like to tell us about something?
I would. Thank you, Leslie. Thank you to the Muleskinners for hosting, and thank you to Greg for being here. So for those who don't know, I am a lifelong Missourian, and I was raised in Blue Springs. I first came to Columbia in 1997, and like all three of my siblings, I graduated from Mizzou. I live with my wife, Sabrina, our 8-year-old girl, Fiona, and our 3-year-old boy, Max. And I co-own a law firm here in town, Klein, Braddock, and Basinger. I'm running for office for the first time, and the reason why I decided to run is because, as many of you noticed, Missouri has gone off the rails politically in a whole lot of ways. I love our state, but it's hard to recognize it in a lot of ways now. And I felt like I really needed to see how I could help out. A lot of you might know that in 2022, I filed the first ballot initiative petition in Missouri to restore reproductive rights. And after Jay Ashcroft refused to process the petition, I litigated against him and Andrew Bailey for over a year in court to try to assert our rights. I've written about statewide political issues on Substack and social media for a couple of years now. And I've addressed issues like the attack on public education and Columbia being gerrymandered right down Broadway and the abuse of our Attorney General's office. But I always wanted to use my career to advance social good. And that's why I got my degree in sociology from here at Mizzou. That's why I joined groups like the ACLU and Amnesty International. That's why I practiced labor law. That's why I worked for legal aid in town for 8 years here. And it's why, through my law firm, I still continue to try to help people. And it's why I was so excited to find out on October 25th that my House seat was going to be an open seat this year. It seemed like an opportunity of a lifetime to me. It's been really great to meet so many people that live in the Fighting 50th District, and I'm not the only one who's excited about this election. There really are a lot of Democrats in our area who are excited and know this is a big, big year for us in 2024. I met other people too. It's also fun to meet people that are kind of just finding out about some of the things that's been going on in Jeff City and the legislature, like education funding dropping to 49th in the state and starting teacher pay being 50th. A lot of people are finding out exactly what's been happening as things have gone off the rails. So in 2024, I really do think that we can make progress in Missouri from being more extreme than all our neighbors. It's on a lot of different issues, and we don't need to be worse off than places like Kentucky, Ohio, Kansas. I want to help make Missouri a place where people want to live and work, study, raise a family. I think we can make progress this year, and I can help. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you. And now, Mr. Bush, it's your turn.
Hi, thank you. It's great to be here with Muleskinners, many of you I know. It's great to see you all again. Again, thanks, Jeff, as well, for being here too. For those of you who don't know me, Gregg Bush, I'm a registered nurse. I like to say I began my healthcare career, though, back in 2006 as a janitor in an ICU. From that time, someone took the time to invest in me. It was able to write a recommendation for me to go to nursing school. And then while working full time, I went through the accelerated program at the Sinclair School of Nursing and graduated in 2012 as an RN. From there I was a med surg nurse, so my patients could walk and talk. I had to meet them where they are, try to get them to the place where they wanted to be. And then from there, being a charge nurse and then training nurses and training charge nurses. And I volunteer for the Partners in Education, Partners in Care, where we train nursing students and we train medical students as well of what it's like to be a healthcare professional. And now I'm on leave from MU Healthcare, where I had achieved the office of the coordinator for professional development and for patient education for the 6 hospitals and the 90 plus clinics of MU Healthcare. The reason why I'm running is, well, the short answer is, Doug, Representative Mann asked me to. That was kind of the short answer. There is a longer answer, though, as well, in that I am a fellow in the Missouri Nurses Association Advocacy Institute. I have been down at the Capitol advocating for nurses, advocating for patients, and meeting lots of legislators. Trying to support good things for nurses and patients, good things for Missourians, good things for our community. Meanwhile, stopping a lot of bad things that are happening at the state capitol as well that affect our patients and affect our communities. So that is the reason why I'm running, to be a voice for working families. My spouse is a respiratory therapist. We are a working family. And a defender of public education. I live here in Columbia with my 3 children, one of whom is a graduate from Columbia Public Schools. The other 2 are currently in public schools. And then also to be an advocate for nurses and patients. And I really look forward to your questions. I want to know what's important to you, as well as members in the community here in Boone County. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, now we're open for questions. It's I don't see any hands up, but I do see something in the chat from Bry me to everyone. What would you say your top political priorities will be in Jeff City if elected, taking into account you being the minority? And how do you think your background will help you in pursuing those priorities? We'll start with Mr. Bush first.
Right, Brian, I really appreciate that question. Thank you. Obviously, the top priorities is going to be healthcare for me, making sure that we expand healthcare, expand access to healthcare. Just because you have healthcare locally doesn't mean that you can actually access it as well. It's kind of being in the minority. It's a tough road to hoe, right? You're not going to be chairs of any committees. And so you really have to go out and meet people, make friends as best you can with other legislators, and find out what's important to them. Making sure that the things that affect the 50th here, which is kind of a suburban districts on the south part of Columbia, with just a little bit of ring there around the county. Find out what's important to them and find those common values. And to make sure that your bills ultimately get heard, or that you can maybe tweak some bills as well. The reality is that we need, some policy expert. We see that, in some standards, Missouri is 47th out of 50 in terms of healthcare outcomes. Considering we graduate, we're 7th in the country in terms of graduating physicians, both DOs and MDs. I don't really think that there doesn't need to be a reason for that. But it's because of extremist politicians and their policies down in Jeff City that are kind of putting the squeeze on not only healthcare, but also healthcare workers as well. And we tell our stories best. We don't need to rely upon others to tell our stories. So that's going to be my top priority, making sure that everybody has access to healthcare as best we can, and preserving the dignity and the sacred space that is the exam room.
All right, thank you. Yeah, Mr. Basinger, you can start.
Yes, I would say that my top priorities are public education and reproductive rights. As far as public education is concerned, I've been commenting on it for quite a while. I think it's an important issue because really there's no more institutional structure that's more important to every single community than public education. It's where our kids prepare for their future. It's where our communities have their events. If we privatize this industry, it's bigger than privatizing something like the trash service or something like that. It is a huge issue. And it's not going to stop. We had a little bit more funding come from the Republicans, but we have to remind people how we got here, how we dropped to 49th and 50th, because this is an issue that defines who we are as a party. We support public education. We think public education dollars should go to public schools. From the time that Andrew Bailey attacked our school board in January 2023, and I spoke up saying that we shouldn't criminalize our school board and our mayor, I've been a strong advocate for it. I've been commenting on social media about it for years. I was the first one to point out, even though I got a little bit of a later start on the campaign, that we did drop to 49th and 50th in funding. As far as reproductive rights are concerned, the fight's not going to stop. We're going to have we're going to have court cases come out, even if we're successful in the ballot initiative, which I think we will be. But then we have to see what Republicans are going to do next. We got to protect against things like restrictions on interstate travel. They're going to try to attack in vitro fertilization. They're going to try to make trap laws saying that you have to have pelvic exams and all of that. And telling the public, my background as a lawyer, studying these cases, these laws for decades, and writing in briefs against people like Andrew Bailey and John Ashcroft about these issues. That background's perfect for advocacy and legal analysts.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. Cancel.
Leslie, I'd like to
Yes.
ask, before we go any further, can one or both of you tell us exactly where the 50th district is?
Oh, that's a good question. I have to figure out where I have done. Okay. Well, that doesn't really ask for a policy question, but we do need to know where it's located. Would either one of you
along
like
the
to tell
southern.
us?
Go ahead.
Yes, it's along the southern and eastern parts of Columbia. Aside from, I think, nooks and crannies, it's all within city limits. And so it runs as far north as the MKT Trail. It doesn't reach up to the stadium. It goes out. If you were at the corner of 63 and Nifrong, you can head on the east side of 63, and it goes up north past Richland and Old Hawthorne, and it goes out west around the Scott area. So it's the main drag is south, and it has that stretch east of 63.
I live in Old Hawthorne and I'm in the 50th. So that's it's a strange configuration, I think. Okay, well, let's see here. Anybody? Oh, all right. I can always depend on Sue and Herb Tillema to have a question. Mute yourself and tell us what you're thinking in 30 seconds or less.
I habitually ask new candidates something about their expected focus when they get to the legislature, including specifically what committees you wish to serve on if you can.
Okay, which committees would you like to serve on? And let's see here. Who was the first one last time? It was Mr. Bush, wasn't it? So Mr. Basinger?
I think that I'm open to seeing where we need help as far as our fellow Democrats are concerned. You know, I'm a lawyer, and so as a lawyer, you are used to asking experts questions and being an expert or getting to the bottom of issues on any substance. Now, I think that generally people feel like the budget committee is a great one to be on. You know, we have a $51 billion budget and almost everything needs funding. And so if you want to make a difference and try to fund where your priorities are, that's a good one to be on. Judiciary, I think, would be a natural fit. I'm an attorney. And so that would be a good one as well.
Your thoughts on this, Evan? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
But I would be open. I would be open to see where we need help on those issues. And so, as far as I'd say, yeah, judiciary would be a big one. Public education's an interest of mine. And my background with legal aid, I think if families and children, I've done a lot of family law and worked with people that need social service needs. I think that would be a natural fit for me too. But as a lawyer, I feel like you kind of have to be a jack of all trades, and so I'm kind of open.
Okay, all right. Thank you. Mr. Bush.
Yeah. Sorry about that, Jeff. I really am sorry. I thought that I tried to cover up the mic. I'm sorry. That was.
I was going to give him a couple extra.
Yeah, I feel bad. That was
Time for that.
So obviously, healthcare and mental health committee is really important to me, to my family, to actually all the communities about that. You know, and again, we don't know what the makeup is going to be next fall. We have from Boone County, our contingent, we have you know, a union carpenter in Representative Plank. We have a retired educator. I guess you never really retire though as an educator, in Representative Steinhoff. And you have we have David Tyson Smith, Representative Smith, who is an attorney as well. I know that there is one of the committees that has done a lot of work kind of setting the tone for another committees and legislation is the Emerging Issues Committee. So this is where people will come and kind of see what are some next steps for the state, for our district and for Missourians. So, you know, I wouldn't presume to know exactly all of those, but definitely we need a voice for healthcare. That's down there. We went back 30 years and there's never been a healthcare professional that we can see that was out of Boone County before. So, you know, I guess I'm really open. And also, who are the other experts in the field? I was able to go through the accelerated program because I have an art degree, a fine arts degree. So obviously that's something that I'm passionate about, making sure that our communities are worth living in with other creators and things.
See? Turn this on. Okay. There is a question still from Ryan Mink. Yeah, two questions. They had two questions. How do you plan on helping grow more democratic political power in Columbia if elected? Will you support other progressive candidates for local offices in Columbia and time or financial support? to help prevent a GOP takeover of city council or the county commission, other row offices. Okay, Mr. Bush, it's your turn.
Yeah, thanks, Bri. I really appreciate that question. As well, I did see that there. Absolutely. I have been actually I got my start kind of in electoral politics by hosting house parties for Democratic candidates locally. I have been out knocking doors for candidates other than myself, making sure that we try to get people to the ballot box and understanding what the stake is. And one of the things I told people on the doors is I believe about this candidate. That's why I'm volunteering my time here. And then, of course, funding, helping fund other candidates as well. That's something that our family has been able to do. We've been just really fortunate enough to have been able to do that. Also taking part in, Boone County Democrats. It's a political party. That's something that my family has done for many years. Many of you know my spouse, my best half, I would say as well. So absolutely, we need to be all working together, finding the people locally who are already doing good work and being a co-conspirator with them, helping them achieve their goals. And that's kind of part of what a nurse does, is assessing a situation and then helping others achieve their goals.
Thank you. Mr. Basinger?
As far as helping other candidates, I think, yes, absolutely. I think that I've already had people give me that when they cross over into my district, their flyers, and I'm willing to provide those. And on a statewide level too, when people reach out and say, will you canvass and knock on our behalf, then it's something that I'm open to entirely and will do. And so I'm totally willing to help out other candidates. Dave's here and he's in the 44th, and that is the one place where we need to make some progress on. I think that just being a strong advocate is a way to help local candidates, showing the difference between us and the people who aren't voting for us right now. It's amazing to me that if you go out a couple of miles and you just cross the city line, how it's a 25-point swing, from blue to red, that type of thing. And I think people need to see the differences. We're not the party that's threatened to criminalize teachers. We're not the party that says that there's propaganda in kitty little boxes in schools. We just want common sense stuff. We want funding for public education. We want to be truthful. We try to, when things aren't working out, we try to hold our own to a standard of accountability. I think that's important. If the Mayor Jones in St. Louis, for instance, said, Kim Gardner, you had a great run, but let's give someone else a try. We hold ourselves accountable when need be. We be honest when need be. Being a strong advocate helps out our candidates. I think that the other side, they don't like weakness. They sense it, they smell it, they disrespect it. I think that you stand up, you be strong, you be truthful. That helps out local candidates. As far as the city takeover issue, Brian, I don't know enough about that particular part, but anything that's going to help progressive local politics, I'm an open ear. I'll listen, I'll try to help.
Okay, thank you. Let's see here. All right, there was a question that was just for one of you, and I see Kathy has something. All right, it has to do with reproductive rights on the ballot. And how do I word this so that it's for both people? Well, I can say, what is your position on reproductive
Well,
rights?
there's an answer in the chat. I mean, I don't know how you rephrase that it's a historical question. It's not a policy question. I don't know how you do that.
Okay. Yeah. I'm not sure how to, but well, why don't we forget that for right now? If there's another person who has a question that would be useful. All right, David Luthole, thank you.
My question relates to Medicaid, Medicare in Missouri. We've had a reduction of a huge number of people on the rolls in Missouri, and we have a continuing battle in the legislature over the tax on the hospitals, which goes to pay for the Medicare in Missouri for low-income people. And so my question is, what is your position on this, and how do we ensure that we continue to provide that sort of care for low-income people in Missouri?
Okay, Mr. Basinger. Oh, there you switched on me. All right, Mr. Basinger, it's your turn to start.
Okay. I think that we convince people that they should elect Democrats instead of Republicans is the main way that we can try to ensure low-income people have access. It was very frustrating to watch this debate take up so much oxygen and bandwidth in the legislature as far as the FRA is concerned. You know, it's $4.5 billion under that hospitals get because they support low-income people. And to just throw away around, what, 9% of our entire budget for no good reason for political fighting is crazy. You know, I've talked with people knocking on doors, and you have to get the message out. It's amazing how there's a lot of things that people just don't know because they don't want to pay attention to the ugliness of politics. But to just throw $4.5 billion in the hole, that's an issue that if you just get that into people's minds and you say that's what a Democrat wants to do is to be reasonable and take that money, that's a big thing. I think if we could get questions, you know, it's been a big issue of mine to try to get questions from the other side answered. We supported expansion of Medicaid. And how many of these Republican candidates would say, let's take it back. Let's make 275,000 people go off these rolls, the people that need health insurance the most. You know, I work for legal aid, and when you have health insurance coverage like that, it's like the one stable thing that a lot of people have in their lives. You know, they have all kinds of problems. They have housing problems. They have domestic violence problems. It's a big issue. I think that we need to align ourselves with federal funding in a lot of ways. Our rural hospitals are in trouble. About 40% of them, there's 57 total. A lot of them are in trouble of closing. There's a lot of these categorizations under federal law as far as hospitals that are dependent on these federal benefits for Medicare, Medicaid, and we have to make sure that we're being smart in the legislature and that we're setting ourselves up to get those benefits instead of like the SNAP problem that we have, where we're not aligning ourselves with federal benefits and costing us money. So get the free money is my answer mainly.
All right, thank you. Mr. Bush, I see you also wandered around on my screen someplace, but there you are. Okay, it's your turn.
Yeah, it is the strangest kind of Brady Bunch kind of here that's existing on the screen. You're right. So Missouri Nurses Association, we're down there advocating for FRA, for passing a clean FRA. That's part of the organizations that we did going down there. Unfortunately, this time, what happened was that there was $270,000 that was going to Planned Parenthood, and there were political extremists down there who could not stomach helping women get cancer screenings or access to birth control. And so that was their demand, that in order to get the $4.5 billion from the federal government, that we can't pay for women and others actually to have access to Medicaid to pay for these things for Planned Parenthood. So that's a real challenge. How can we ensure that? It's a tough road to hoe. There is a supermajority down there, and we're 3 seats away from taking back even part of a minority. Right, ending the super minority status of Democrats. I know there's a question in the chat from Pam as well. Can we get state funding going for Planned Parenthood again? Anybody who's going to sit here and make a promise that they can do that sort of thing, I think is it's kind of folly. We can certainly try, but until like the voters in Missouri kind of understand, until we can get our message out, until we can until they kind of hit that nadir of Medicare, getting kicked off the Medicare rolls, I don't really see that happening in the near term. I wish that answer were different, Pam. I'm sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Well, let's see. I don't see any other yellow hands except for, again, there's Mari Scala. I'm sorry, Tillamas, I've already had your chance right now, but I'll go back to you if nobody else has a question.
Sorry.
Mari.
First of all, I just want to draw attention. Pam posted a question in the chat pertaining to public education that we need to get back to. But my question follows on the discussion about Medicaid funding. And I just read in the newspaper this morning about how we have 200,000 people, fewer people on Medicaid in Missouri now than we did a year ago. Over 100,000 of whom are children who've gotten dropped, largely due to the inefficiency and poor management of the agency that administers Medicaid. Our wait times to get signed up for Medicaid are way beyond the federal parameters. So my question to both of you is, what would you like to see happen to address that issue? Get the people who are eligible for Medicaid actually able to sign up for it.
Okay, I think, see, Mr. Bush already left for another. Well, I think you're the first one, aren't you?
I think so. I think so too. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, that is a real challenge. I think there's two aspects to that, Marie. Thank you for the question. So there's two aspects. One of them has to do with, is it a workforce issue, right? Where are people that are there the vacancies that are in those kinds of offices? Are we not bringing people into the workforce in order to process these applications? It's always astounding to me that there's some voters that kind of vote for people that or there's candidates that run, and nobody on this call, I don't think, I'm looking around, but there's candidates that say that particularly on the other side, that say that government is broken, and then they get elected in office and prove the voters right. Government can't do this, but the reality is that there is real suffering that's happening for our patients, for our children, and such. So we actually have to go about being advocates for good governance, being advocates for the people who send us there to do our job. And most people, I mean, on doors that I'm hearing is they just want some sanity down there. They don't like the bickering, they don't like the quarreling, they don't like the fighting, and they want somebody who's actually going to go down there and serve not only their district, but make sure that their families have safe places to be at, schools that are well funded, with the teachers that feel supported, with other occupations that feel supported by a state that actually cares about them. As a single legislator, there's not a lot that we could do other than make sure that we tell those stories, make sure that we find supporters where we can, and say, this is happening in your district, and you have an ally in me to make sure that people around you are having access to healthcare.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Basinger.
Yes, I think it has to either be a staffing or a funding issue, you would think. Taking applications and is not a new process, and somehow other states are able to do this, and so our numbers are far, far lower than everyone else. And so I think you tell that story. It's just the same type of reason why telling people that we have more extreme reproductive rights laws in almost every state in the nation is a powerful story, or dropping 49th and 50th in state funding for publications, a powerful story. Others, our times for Medicaid funding are slower than a lot of other people, and people want to know that their tax dollars are going to good use, that their representatives are doing their jobs. People don't like incompetency, inefficiency. Those are issues that are universal types of issues. And I think especially when you put it in the context of something like how our attorney general is a year behind typically on sunshine requests, or how we had to sue to get the delay on SNAP benefits fixed. If it's part of this pattern where we have this slowdown in government, this inefficiency across the board, these delays across the board, then people get that. They get that people aren't doing their job the way they should be. And people just want things to work correctly. And that's a powerful message too. And I think in the end, if once you get past in the committee, as far as staffing and funding issues, seeing what's going on there, then you go to the courts. That's what they did in the SNAP case. You know, we had a successful federal lawsuit where Legal Aid of Eastern Missouri, you know, my old cohorts, I was mid-Missouri, but Legal Aid and Jobs for Justice and other good groups teamed up and they won in federal court. They said that this is a violation of rights. So if you have to go there, then that's the final resort.
Thank you. Let's see here. Somebody has Pam started something. All right. How about something from Peter Schneeberger? The university is a critical part of our community, but leaders in Jeff City seem inclined to let it wither. What will you do to save one of our critical institutions? Mr. Basinger?
Well, I've already tried to jump out and make sure our university is protected. You know, when I already mentioned how in January 2023, I spoke out at the school board when we were under attack about a silly drag queen issue. You could just see nationwide that this was going to be a propaganda issue. It was going to be an attack on public schools. They were going to link those things together. When the terrible tragedy in Gaza and Israel happened, my mind went back to 2015, and we had protests at Mizzou, and people try to take advantage of these situations. The Republicans try to, you know, they try to make universities look like they are sowing destruction, blah, blah, blah. They take the most extreme statement they can find on any protester. I saw they had a Canadian guy who said he's against America at a protest recently and said, look at what these American universities are doing. They try to turn them against you. So you get out in front of it. You try to get out in front of it and say, this is what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to make it look like our universities are out to get people. Don't let them run the same playbook on you again. Get out there and say, we support our schools. We support freedom of speech. Just because there's a student that has an opinion that's going to get broadcast across the nation, it doesn't mean there's a single thing wrong with our universities. They're great institutions. There's a diversity of opinion, and you can take the most extreme person anywhere and try to make it look like everyone else shares their opinion, and that's just a trick. It's a trick. So you try to get out ahead of it and let people know that they've run this type of playbook before. They tried to stop funding before. They tried to freeze Mizzou before. Get out in front of it. And, I've responded to Republicans directly about these issues on social media and said, you're not going to attack the university again. It's an important institution to our economy. It's a great university. Get out in front of their arguments.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Mr. Bush.
Very good. Thanks for that question. It's such a pillar in our community and makes Columbia livable. It separates us from, most of the rest of the state about that. Or with that, how to protect Mizzou is the Boone County contingent is going to have to work together to make sure that we protect this university, the flagship of the University of Missouri system. We have to make sure that we work with Mizzou to make sure that they have access to and are, good for the workers there at Mizzou as well. There've been a lot of changes in terms of, PTO, in terms of there's just a new parking rates that are going up for a lot of the employees. That is kind of a direct result of the significant underfunding of Mizzou by the extremists down in Jeff City who don't want to make more educated voters, frankly. I spent time with the dean of the nursing school as well, and finding out what challenges she has in terms. I mean, this is recent. What challenges she has when it comes to attracting and retaining good staff. Attracting, because the students are there. It's a really competitive nursing school. Same with our medical school. There is a demand for education that is continuing. The question is how are we going to make sure that we keep the funding going from the state level, and then supporting the students and making sure that they have good jobs when they graduate to stay here and be a taxpayer. Those are things that to protect our flagship institution.
Right. Thank you very much. Let's see. Now there was a question, and I don't think it's one that you can answer. I will just simply answer. Do you think public schools have standing to sue the state? That's a legal question. You can't answer it. The courts will answer that one. But I see that Herb Tillema, or to sue.
I disagree. I think they can answer it.
Courts.
Dr.
You can disagree until your face is blue. The courts are going to say otherwise.
Wrote in an opinion in the paper about the Missouri Constitution. I would like their opinion.
Courts will
dead.
All right. Does what is it? Where is it? Do the public schools have standing to sue the state about charter schools? All right, Mr. Bush.
They might very well. I think there's an exceptional court case. This is not my lane. Obviously, public education is my lane, and healthcare is my lane. So I will obviously defer to experts on that. But when I've been talking to people on phones right after 727 was passed and before the governor signed it, I basically informed this individual that who said that it kind of targets Boone County for public schools. And this was an attorney, and he said, that doesn't make sense. How can you tell me? I said, well, it says Boone County right in the law. And he said, yeah, that's not going to stand. So I will defer to experts. If I can tell you what your blood pressure is and what a good creatinine is, but I will defer to others on this issue.
The law is okay. Thank you. Mr. Basinger.
Yes, I think it is correct. I mean, the courts will decide. You can't be sure about what's going to happen. I think that the schools within the jurisdiction of Boone County, as I've written and other commentators have said, the schools are going to be losing money, maybe about $15 million. And so I think the first thing you look for is there harm? And I think the schools within there have been financially harmed. And I think that is what you need as a start for standing. I think that the case, I do hope it is brought successfully. Somebody has to have standing, right? It's got to be the schools or the county itself or a student. Somebody, a person or entity should be able to have standing here. The grounds of the case look good to me, and I hope they bring it. You can't make specialized laws. You have to make generalized laws. And there's no rhyme or reason, as people have commented, for choosing Boone County when our population doesn't it's lower than first and second, like the schools that already have charter schools, and our schools have been accredited also. So there's no rhyme or reason for picking us out. We were targeted, as representatives have commented. So I think that as far as the merits, the substance of the lawsuit, I hope it's brought in because it's a specialized law without any rhyme or reason or rational basis behind it. And if there's not standing for Boone County, then somebody's got to have it. And I think that I hope they get a good legal team together, and the courts can't play whack-a-mole with it. Somebody should have standing to bring a lawsuit like that. I hope they do.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a matter of standing, and that's to decide, the courts decide that. Okay, all right, Herb or Sue? I think Sue was pointing to Herb.
Oh, I was. Go ahead, it's your turn.
Given the most substantial Republican majority in the House, success in influencing actual policy frequently depends upon joining a coalition initiated by Republicans and trying to help reshape it from within. Are you willing to do that, each of you? And what special skills and experience do you possess that would advantage you in this kind of technique?
Okay, Mr. Basinger, you're first.
So you're telling me this job involves working with Republicans? I do not. Okay, all right, yes.
Yes, indeed it does.
Okay. Yes. Thank you for the question, Herb. Yes, I will be willing to work with Republicans. I think that I have shown my ability to work with Republicans because on the other side of my office door is of the 5 representatives in our area, there is the 1 Republican there. And so I have that experience. And then just being a lawyer, as an attorney, you have to go toe to toe and advocate and make all your arguments to the extent that the rules of law and ethics allow you to do so. And you have to do so even if, your client's making some arguments that down low, you're like, if I was the judge, I don't know. So you go toe to toe, you go full advocacy. And then after the decision, you shake your hand and you go back and you do it again. You get, you jump right back at it. And I think that there's a lot of fire and there's a lot of rhetoric and there's a lot of extremism down in Jeff City. But in the end, these people know politics. And if you don't cross lines that you shouldn't be crossing, then they should be able to work with you. And so as a lawyer, I do that all the time. You argue and then you come back and work together again. You don't cross lines. You don't sit there and talk about people's families. You don't sit there and swear and go vulgar, but you can advocate as hard as I've been advocating on all these issues, and you keep going at it. I feel like I know how to draw lines as a lawyer. I'm also proud. I know a lot of people have been tossed off of places like Twitter. I've never, knock on wood, been suspended because I think I know you argue up to the line, not past it. You come back and you do it again. It's just part of the job.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Bush.
Yeah, so it is. There's a lot of Republicans down there. I've met many of them, not all of them, but met many of them. I've testified in committees in front of them as well. Then that is the reality, is that you're going to have to work with people that don't necessarily agree with you on everything. As a nurse, we know that there's a person on the other side of every encounter, and we have to be able to separate the person from the policy, right? I saw this as a nurse during COVID with vaccine hesitancy. I can show, infection rates, and I can show all of these kinds of things to data to my patients, some of whom were educated, and that didn't necessarily persuade them. So what can you do? You have to meet them where they are. You have to kind of work them, or not work them, but kind of draw them in step by step and really try to build trust with them, and making sure that your policies and your point of view gets across. And that's actually how to change some hearts and minds. I was at the town hall with the Boone County contingent, and some of them had bills that got heard. Some of them had bills that didn't get heard. It was a terrible legislative session with not a lot of bills being passed. And some of their Republicans then are going to be taking up their bills next time, right? So their name might not be on it, but they were the ones that went down there and kind of started that conversation and had it be a good idea. There's kind of no place for ego on that. You simply have to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. Meet people where they are and agree with them where you can, and try to stop them if they try to do something that would be harmful to our district or Missourians.
Okay, thank you. My computer says it's 12:51 at this point, and I don't think we have really very much time left. And I want to give both of you 3 minutes to say whatever you want to say, tie up loose ends that you couldn't complete, that sort of thing. And so this time, I will go to Mr. Bush will be the first one to speak for 3 minutes.
Feels like an eternity. Thank you, Muleskinners, for hosting this and for kind of bringing us out into this public sphere. I just want to make sure and understand, again, what I'm hearing from your values are public education. Again, I have 2 children currently in public schools right now, one of whom has an IEP. And I fear that with charter schools and with these private schools, and we hear about school choice, that it's really the school's choice of whether or not they would educate my son. In some ways, he's really advanced in some areas, and in other areas, he needs to have some accommodation. And I worry that there's other students, and I know for a fact there's other students like that, and I worry that there's so much potential being left untapped because should we not have the public education funding for students like that. In my healthcare career as a charge nurse and training charge nurses, I always said we have to make sure we set the next shift up for success. The hospital is a 24/7 operation. The earth is a 24/7 operation. Our communities are 24/7, and we have to be setting the next shift up for success. Whether it's through education, making sure that we educate the next shift, as it were, of workers. Whether it's in our jobs to make sure that we have, I'm a union member, I'm making sure that we have that our jobs and dignity in the workplace are protected for the next shift, right? And then also with respect to the planet, we have to make sure we set the next shift up for success. What are we leaving behind? I was just talking with one of my sons last night about the wake that is left behind when you're traveling through space and through time. We have to make sure that we are not just picking up after ourselves, but minimizing that wake, minimizing the things that we are leaving for the next shift, and making sure that we move forward into a better future for Boone County, for the 50th, and for Missouri. Those are my values. That's why it's important. We turned 380,000 signatures for the abortion petition. I was on the steps of the Capitol that day. It was thrilling to be able to see that kind of energy. Now we're in a place where we've got to make sure we turn out the vote, and that's going to voters and meeting them and telling them that the stakes are high this election. Representative Mann flipped this district last time. And it's going to take all of us working together to make sure that this seat stays blue, and make sure that we turn out the vote this fall. And I really appreciated this time, and I look forward to seeing you all again sometime in person. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Basinger.
All right, thank you. Thank you for hosting. It is always lovely to attend one of these meetings. I appreciate your consideration and all your questions. I don't have any misgivings about what this job would entail. I think that it would take a lot of time, it would take a lot of money, and it would take a lot of patience. It would be a sacrifice for sure, but I think that's what it takes to keep Missouri from going off the rails into political extremism. You know, we do have to sacrifice, and I'm willing to do that as representative. I think that the last few decades of Missouri politics has taught us that we need people in Jefferson City who can use every tool to their advantage. We need people, it's a lawmaking job, so we need people who can wield laws and procedure to their advantage. And we need people who can fight. You know, you do what you can to reach negotiations, you do what you can to advocate, but if you can't get that done, then you go back to the people. And I think that if you look at what I've written, what I've put on my website, the arguments that I make, I think I try to go into an amount of detail that's going to try to convince people, convince minds, grab the attention of media, grab the attention of leaders who pay attention to that type of thing. So if you can't reach an agreement, if you can't get something passed, and we don't have the numbers right now to always do that, You take your argument to the people, and that's something that I've tried to do. I'm trained in the substance of law, and I'm also a litigator, so I can take that advocacy. I think I have those skills and that advantage. There's no doubt I'll stand up for you. I took the fight directly to Jay Ashcroft's doorstep to help try to protect Missouri's access to abortion in the initiative petition process. I wanted people to get moving on it. I wanted people to know what the solution was. I wanted to get the grassroots activism up and going, and for people to be ready to fight when time came. And now look at us. We're on the doorstep of success. When I say I'll fight for you, it's more than a promise. You know, it is something that is a plan to continue what I've already been doing. I think I've just reached the limit to where I can do it, where I'm at, but I can do it more as a representative for you. We need to send someone to Jeff City who is more than a Democrat. I think that this choice is an important one, and it's too important of a choice to be made for you by somebody else. It's the voter's choice and nobody else's choice. We need somebody who's willing to fight for everyone in Missouri, regardless of their profession, regardless of their political affiliations. And I think that's me. You know, we keep falling behind all our neighbors, and we're going to have a battle for the foreseeable future to dig ourselves out of this hole. We need someone who could protect liberty, voting, education, healthcare, and fundamental rights. And that's why I want to be your candidate for the Missouri 50th. I think I can take the fight to Jeff City on behalf of all of us. Thanks.
Thank you very much. I say now that I'm impressed, and I think no matter who wins the primary, you're qualified. And I appreciate the intelligence and that we have, the wealth of candidates we have on our side for this year. Well, now I'll turn it all over to who was it?
I'll take
Dave,
it.
is it?
Thank you, Leslie and Jeff and Greg. Thank you very much. And I'm hopeful it will win in November, and whoever ends up in that seat, we're going to be well represented in Boone County. So thank you.
Who is the Republican running in the 50th district?